And welcome back to Ruben Uncut. Time for another exciting episode of Ruben and Gato Go to the Movies. This time, the movie we saw was The Iron Claw. What'd you think, Gato?
I really enjoyed it. Everyone did an excellent job except Ric Flair guy. Ric Flair fucking sucked. What the hell, movie? But
He was okay physically, but
yeah, he looked good. That wasn't the problem. It's just
he had the physical mannerisms down, but questionable voice.
yeah. It's just like it sounded like he'd only ever had Ric Flair described to him. That's like, and he said his woo was like not even close.
I was gonna say, I feel like I do a better woo than that guy.
Yeah, the Ric Flair woo, woo, like it's like yeah, and like sometimes you like change it up a little bit, or like hold it out like woo, and then like run out of breath halfway through because of all the coke he's doing. But yeah, that woo sucked. It sounded more like a Sting used to woo back when before he put on the crow makeup. It sounded more like Sting's woo.
Interesting. But besides the Ric Flair actor, it's really during the promo that he's
Yeah, that's so killer because that's one of
like I didn't think he was bad in his other scenes, but he didn't talk as much.
yeah, like the end when he was all tired and like blood and bleeding and stuff, like that was fine because like he get away with it then because he's gassed. He's been fucking he's been wrestling outside in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, no. But so for those unfamiliar with the concept of the Iron Claw is inspired by the true story of the Von Erich family. And the Von Erich family is one of the many, surprisingly, this is a common thing in wrestling families. Um, and many people said that they were cursed. The movie implies that maybe they weren't so much cursed as their dad just really sucked and shouldn't have been raising children. So the movie follows Fritz von Erich, the father and patriarch of the von Erich's family, and I forget what the name of the guy who played him is, but I've never seen the real Fritz von Erich, so I don't know really what to compare him. But acting wise, he really seemed to do a great job. What do you think about Fritz?
He was pretty much spot on. That was a very good pick on their part. He was kind of missing some of the like I've been smoking cigars and drinking whiskey for 40 years. Like it wasn't croaky enough because Fritz like always sounded like he had chest congestion when he talked. That's how much cigars he smoked. But yeah, other than that, he was great. Like they did he had the like he was very convincing as the overbearing patriarch of a wrestling family.
And so, of course, the big name in the movie is Zac Efron, and Zac Efron plays technically the main character, Kevin Von Erich. And this honestly, this is a super high point for Zac Efron's career, in my opinion.
He was really good. That was insane.
Like his performance is honestly his performance is phenomenal. It's really the thing that puts the movie over the top. Because there was a part in the movie, like about midway through, my brain was thinking, like, oh no, I hope I didn't oversell this movie to myself. But like the last act, just like all the heart and emotion that Zac Efron puts into the last act as this Kevin Von Erich guy, it really like I will say, like, I teared up in the theater there at the end, like when he's in the yard with his kids. Like, sorry, that may have been a huge spoiler, although not really, because you can Wikipedia everything that happens in this movie pretty much. It's not like did they seem like they was there anything that you noticed that was embellished?
Um not embellished as much. I mean, they kind of they made it seem like only Carrie did a lot of drugs and drank all the time, but like they seriously all of them did that. Like all of them did that.
In fairness, the movie
Carrie just did the most.
So the movie doesn't really embellish much as it cuts it like
it condenses things or combines two into one brother.
Yeah, essentially in the movie.
No, not a whole lot of embellishment in that movie, actually.
Essentially in the movie, one of the brothers, Michael von Erich, they've combined him with another brother named Chris von Erich, who does not appear in the movie. Michael sort of just takes on certain traits and features of Chris. But by and large, it did seem like Michael sort of mostly followed Michael's story.
Yeah, that's what I gathered too. Because like they were the two brothers that they combined those two because they both were like should probably not have wrestled, but they were pressured into it or felt like they had to after David died or whatever. And they both killed themselves different ways. So, they didn't really embellish anything. They just simplified a lot. Because also, like, the way Carrie shot himself, that was mostly right. But, like, what actually happened is, like, Carrie just showed up randomly. And they got it right that Fritz was busy, like, doing chores and, like, just completely disregarded Kevin's phone call saying, "Oh my God, you have to watch Carrie." But like that part's fine. But like apparently Fritz was repaving his driveway, and like Carrie just showed up, hugged him, went inside, and then that's the last he saw of him because after he hugged him and went inside, he grabbed the gun, then went out the back door, and then went several miles into the woods and shot himself.
So yeah, so like, well, we should let's talk about the different brothers. Yeah. Side note: the credits here says that Lance von Erich appears in it, and I don't remember them ever showing Lance.
It was for a split second.
Oh, it was for a split
second. Remember that part during like the montage where like Carrie gets called up to WWF, and then David's dead, so he's down there by himself for a little bit. Oh, and he was in the tag match, and he goes for like tag me, and then the guy doesn't. That was supposed to be Lance, apparently.
Oh, okay.
That's what I figured because it was just such a like bland, like generic wrestler of the time period look. I couldn't fucking tell who it was because there was like 40 people it could have fucking been.
It was kind of funny too. That's kind of funny too because like he is actually. The actor who plays him is actually one of the real wrestlers in the movie,
and they hyped him so much, like he's gonna be in this movie, and it was seriously less than a fucking second he's on screen.
He's played by Maxwell Jacob Friedman, who I think is in what AEW.
Yeah, he's their champion now. Actually,
now in fairness, there are some other real wrestlers in the movie.
Yeah, like Chavo Guerrero's in it.
I think this guy might be.
That's Dolph Ziggler's brother.
Dolph Ziggler's brother.
I don't know what he does. I've never seen him wrestle.
He plays Gino Hernandez in the movie.
Apparently. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense because they were. And he's an interesting character too, that Gino Hernandez.
judging by this guy's picture, Mike Dell is either a wrestler or an MMA fighter who plays one of the referees. And apparently Cassidy O'Reilly is a real wrestler. Although I'm judging by the quality of his picture, he might not be famous. Chavo Guerrero appears as the Sheik. These are all brief cameos, to be honest. All the real wrestlers are in cameos.
Yeah, wrestling is very secondary in this movie. It's more about the curse.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, so...
I was kind of surprised there wasn't that much wrestling in it.
I mean, there's a lot. Arguably, there's more wrestling training and like wrestling behind the scenes talk than there is the wrestling. Yeah. Although there is at least
I mean, they didn't even show like just match footage. They could have done that.
I mean, I mean, there's at least one or two matches in it if you don't count the montages.
Yeah.
A lot of the wrestling isn't montaging and isn't montages. This really is mostly about the family. Um, but wrestling, of course, is a big part of it still because like wrestling is what their family has essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie also focuses on Kevin Von Erich's relationship with Pam Adkisson, played by Lily James. She was all right. Um, her part in the movie also felt kind of small, like small but important. Did you get that impression?
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes sense though because they were wrestling, so they're on the road all the time. You know, and also they did do the thing where it's like he was scared of passing the curse on to them, so he stayed away from them to protect them.
True. Because like that's the thing is that the movie follows Kevin's journey through his life as him starting out as a very like happy-go-lucky, almost the oldest brother, tries to take care of everyone. And like the thing that really comes through in the film is how much he loves his brothers. Like and Zac Efron just does a great job at this, I would say, just like throughout the film. His brothers are played by Jeremy Allen White. He plays Kerry Von Erich. I thought he had a good performance also. It comes across that Carrie is like one of the more reserved of the brothers, but also like very intense. Yeah. Carrie Von Erich was originally going to be an Olympian and compete at the Olympics.
Yeah, doing shot put, which is something that Fritz pressured him to do because Fritz also used to do shot put.
Oh damn, that's not. They don't even mention that.
Yeah, that's one of they omit a bunch of like little things that like I get why they did, but it would explain things a lot better if they had at least hinted at them. But I understand that it would have been so tedious to write it that way.
Fair.
But yeah, he did that. Yeah, all of them used to do something, and then except for like Kevin used to play football, and he was going to join the NFL, but then he hurt his knee too many times, and they told him like, "Hey, you got." Stop. Mm-hmm. And then he got into wrestling that way because when you wrestle you can make your own offense, develop your own offense, and base it around your abilities, which is weird because his finish was a crossbody. It's like your knees are fucked up, why are you jumping off the top rope barefoot, might I add? Kevin Von Erich wrestled barefoot his whole career.
And but Carrie ends up getting into wrestling because it's the year that America pulls out of the Olympics because the Olympics are going to be in Moscow. So he gets
that
it's like there's almost like this. So like with the extra information you gave me, it's even clearer that like the story of their family is basically them missing out on opportunities at other sports and then like coming back to wrestling for their livelihood. Like that's even the story of their dad, Fritz.
Yeah, he wanted to be in the NFL, and then he wrestled for a while. And I looked it up. Like he was champion of territories, but he wasn't like the NWA champion ever. So like, and that I didn't know that about him, that he wanted to really bad, but they never let him, and he took it personally and based his whole entire identity in it.
I mean, that's a big thing in the movie, is you see, because Fritz is someone who is more than once in his life felt like he was like screwed out of his success, that he was fucked over by some circumstance or some group of people.
And on top of that, he had some narcissistic tendencies to him.
Definitely.
So like he's like Fritz is the main character of the entire world in Fritz's head. So like, oh, they cheated me. How could they do that to me?
Yeah. And Fritz's thing is that he thinks the way to get the best out of his sons is to make them highly competitive. As in, he tells them who his favorites are, but with the express extension of, but hey, those can change all the time. I can, if you do the right things, you can become my favorite son. And like, this is the way he treats his sons. And a thing that comes across in the movie is that um the kids' parents are completely cut off from them emotionally, both the father and the mother. And like literally the brothers, and they are encouraged to get like their emotional support from each other instead of their parents, by their parents. And so like the brothers are just like intensely care about each other because that's all they've ever had. And the film is essentially Kevin watching all the brothers he loves die. And that's the movie. Like that is the story of Kevin Von Erich's life. Him feeling like he has this curse on him that is just pulling him down. And yeah. Honestly, even if we give you spoilers in this thing, honestly, you should see it just for the performances because the acting is really good. Specifically, Zac Efron and Holt McCallany, who I looked it up, is the guy who plays Fritz. But Jeremy Allen White does a great job as Carrie. Carrie, like we said, is the Olympian. He's kind of like he comes across like the strong silent type. Did you get that vibe?
Yeah, I don't know much about what Carey was like as a person. I watched some of his matches and some of his promos. But from what I heard, he just partied like a lot. So like
he does do a bunch of cocaine in the movie and stuff.
And he drinks a lot. It shows up to stuff drunk. Like there's a bunch of stuff about Carey that I get why they left out, but they should have explained it in some way. The movie, like, there's a bunch more stuff that leads up to Carey shooting himself. That they did not put in. I mean, yeah, losing his foot in that motorcycle wreck was a part of it, but also like apparently he wrestled some dates in Mexico, got a bunch of drugs, and then some border agent or something found his drugs, and he was facing prison time for that because it was like a lot.
Damn.
And so that was weighing on his conscience, and on top of that, drinking and doing coke and steroids all the time, which they did show him doing in the movie. I feel like they should have made it more clear that that's what it was. Because they also made the strange choice of having him inject the IM into his bicep, which I've never seen anyone do.
Oh, we're talking about the
steroids.
Yeah, the steroids. Yeah.
And then they just have him like sit there like he's fucked up, and it's like, what anabolic steroids do? I mean, I assume that's what kind of steroids he was doing. Like, it just makes you, I mean, feel sore after doing exercise as much, so you can work out more.
I mean, he probably was pretty beat after that match too.
Yeah.
And we haven't mentioned David at all. Harris Dickinson plays David Von Erich.
He was really good too. Like that, he had David's mannerisms down really well.
And he just came across really likable too. Like David.
Yeah. Like I looked into David like more because I only really knew about Carey. Like that was the main Von Erich I knew about because he was in WWF for a little while.
And the thing that's fucked up is that like the movie implies even that David Von Erich actually, like in terms of as wrestlers, he was the total package of the brothers.
Yeah, he was the best one. Like he could do all of it. Like Carey, like was really good in the ring. He was big. That's another thing that he didn't really get across in the movie. Carey's way bigger than all of them, like muscle wise, because of the steroids he was doing. And he did shot put, so that's like real, and discus and stuff like that. And you have to be pretty jacked to do that.
I mean, he was pretty jacked in the movie, but
Like he
Zac
was also
Efron does
tall. He
look
was also
more
taller than
jacked.
them. He was also taller than them as well.
That's what really didn't come across, as
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that he was taller. David looked the tallest in the movie, but
yeah, he was actually one of the shorter ones.
interesting.
Yeah, but David, like the thing that he didn't like. I couldn't find anything about him doing a sport, but he's from Texas, so he probably played football a little bit. But he actually made most of his money outside of wrestling.
Really?
Yeah, he had his own ranch. Like he was discovered he was really good at like breaking horses.
Oh wow.
So like what you would so like that's why if you I don't know if you noticed it because it was really subtle, but like his gear was the only gear that said like Texas on it. He was the only one that wore a cowboy hat.
Because he works on a horse ranch.
Yeah, because like that's what like yeah, because he was an actual ranch, like a actual like horse like a wrangler guy. That's what he did, and he made so much money because horses have never not been expensive. So like, yeah, you would just buy like baby horses from people, wait for them to grow up, break them, and then sell them to people.
the thing that the thing that is in the movie is that he is essentially the way it's shown to us in the movie is that like Zach is probably like Kevin is a really good wrestler, and Carrie is really good at wrestling, but like David isn't just good at wrestling, he's good at the theatrics of wrestling. Like he can improv on a mic. And what meanwhile as we see Kevin like
just kind of be like mumbling and awkward, like where we go?
and
you scared?
and like struggling to remember lines he's pre-written as well. Um but David is the total package, the superstar. He really is the one who could go all the way, and then he dies mysteriously in Japan.
Yeah.
The official story and what is said in the movie is that he died of a ruptured intestine.
Yeah, that seems to be the major consensus of it. Ric Flair is the I looked into this too. Ric Flair is the only one who claims like, oh, he OD'd. We partied all night together, and he went back to his room and didn't come back. Oh well.
Oh, so it's Ric Flair who actually started the he OD'd rumor?
Yeah,
That's
because Ric Flair's kind of a piece of shit.
Wow, that's wild to know. That's another thing that would have been interesting in context of the movie. But like it is like you said that like honestly, there's so much they could have put in it, and this isn't a short movie. It's at least 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like 2:12.
It's 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Yeah, it moved pretty quick. It
yeah, no,
2 hours.
It did. But so David is the first to pass. And this is hard because David just seems like the best. Like he is a good dude.
Yeah. And he was supposed to be like really young too. Like he was only like in his early 20s or something when he died. Or 25. That's how old.
Damn.
Yeah. Them Von Erich boys look pretty rough in real life. Too. I think probably all the wrestling and hot climates.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, David actually did like a lot more wrestling stuff than what they describe in the movie. They do hit like, oh, you got to go to every territory so they could have you feud with Flair everywhere. But no, he was going everywhere even before that. Like he was in Florida working heel against Dusty Rhodes.
Wow.
His baby, that's one of the few guys where it's like, okay, I actually like your baby face promos better. Because his heel promos are just, yeah, you women here sure are ugly. Like just that boring press. Like so clearly he'd never been heel before.
Yeah.
Like that all-American like Texas boy like sports and his family and like stuff like that. But, like oh, that's another thing that they didn't really get over in the movie. It was just like they were really famous and they were supposed to be wholesome too. So that's why when they started, like Carrie started getting busted with drugs and hitting like running
Wait, you
into
mean they're wrestling characters?
yeah, they were supposed to be like clean cut, like all American good boys.
Oh,
They're
okay.
Fritz's good boys, and they are nice, and you should. And like yeah, and then Carrie starts getting busted for having a bunch of coke on him all the time, or when the accident where he lost his foot. Did not know this. He was riding his motorcycle fucked up, and he hit a parked cop car.
What?
This is when they were still made out of metal too.
God dang. Oh man.
Going high speed, hit a parked cop car.
Oh damn. Yeah, no. Carrie Von Erich. The thing that's interesting to me about Carrie Von Erich is that Carrie Von Erich, even when he got into the WWF, because it was called the WWF at that time, now known as the WWE, he hid his disability his whole career, which is wild to me. He hid the fact that he was missing a foot. Like, that's right. That's true.
Yeah, he did not show anybody. I mean, people his family knew.
Mm-hmm.
And probably some wrestlers did too, because what is he doing? Just not showering, staying in his gear the whole night. That's probably like wrestlers change out of their shit after the show's over.
He had weird boots he could put on without taking. He had pants he could put on without taking his boots off. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. But
just wear sweatpants everywhere.
Just a quick aside there. I also like that Zac Efron did everything barefoot like Kevin did. Finally found out why he did that, and he was the only one to do it. It's because the Sportatorium, the building where we would do all their shows before they got signed to a TV deal, was really hot because Fritz was like also super cheap, and he did not pay to have an air conditioner installed, and it was just there's no shade because like I've been to where the Sportatorium used to be, and it's just this big open field. There's like not a single tree. So
Dang.
it's really hot in Texas. They're cramming people in there. They're probably allowed to smoke inside, and you've got stage lighting. So apparently he would just sweat a lot, and then eventually his socks would get all soaked through with sweat, and it would make his feet heavier. And he didn't like how it felt, so he just started wrestling barefoot all the time.
Interesting. I will say, like, they never mention in the show in the movie that the air conditioning is broken, but like when they come to the ring, they are already drenched in sweat.
Yeah, and back then wrestlers would put like baby oil on themselves to make their muscles look shiny.
Oh, shiny muscles.
Yeah, nobody really does that anymore, though. I mean, every now and then you get a wrestler who likes to dump a bottle of water on their head before they go out. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's only kind of annoying for the other wrestlers.
Now, Carrie, David, and Kevin, they were all good at wrestling and they liked wrestling. But there were technically two other brothers who should not have been wrestling. Now, in the movie, they're both combined into Mike Von Erich, and one of the brothers was Mike. And he's like portrayed as like the sensitive artist of the group. What he really wants to do is play rock and roll. Do we know if that song is really his?
I did not remember to look into this song, but maybe it was somebody else's song, but it was his favorite song or something. Who knows?
Well, they choose to have it played a couple key moments in the movie, so like it makes you wonder.
Yeah. And then they did do a nod to the other brother that got combined with Chris, like he was into cameras.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember him talking about camera angles and Fritz like, telling him it's stupid.
But even though Fritz fucking no, it isn't.
Yeah, no, like
and another thing, like I looked into it and they were like, oh, World Class always had the best TV shows because they did better graphics and camera angles. So like people liked WCCW's camera angles, which Chris did, and Fritz was like, I don't fucking care. It's like you should care because I have seen wrestling shows that are just hard cam and that's it. It's so fucking boring.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and like And like in the movie, they tell us he has this new ESPN deal, and it's like, if you get on ESPN, you should really give a shit about
Like, you
camera angles.
really need to care because this isn't just gonna affect only people in this region of the country anymore. Everyone's going to see this.
Mm-hmm. I do wonder how long they had their ESPN deal. Like
Um,
that would be interesting to know.
I don't think I looked into that part, but that does explain how they got to go to the Dallas Cowboys football stadium to do their bigger shows, which were called. They didn't mention this, but their biggest show they would do every year was called Star Wars, all one word, so they wouldn't get sued.
Nice.
They probably left that out to keep from confusing the people who don't like wrestling, but that's what their biggest show every year was called. It's called Star Wars.
In the movie, Mike is pressured into wrestling, and he gets injured in the ring.
Yeah. This is where another way they combined the two brothers. Like one of them did get very hurt, like wrestling in Dallas, but the real Mike got hurt his shoulder wrestling in Tel Aviv.
Interesting.
And then they had to fly him back. Then they did the surgery in Tel Aviv, and then he flew home. And when he got home, that's when his temperature spiked and he got the brain damage.
Damn.
But they made it look like, oh, it all happened in Texas, and it just happened while he was on the table. It's like, no, it was a complication that didn't come up until after he got back to Texas.
But we gotta condense, people. We gotta condense. There's too much.
A lot of people are dying, pretty much one after the other.
This family was cursed, y'all. And by cursed, we mean it was run by a psychopath.
That drove all of, and the pressure, because they're all really young too.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of them were even close to 30 when they died.
And he just puts an absurd amount of pressure on them to succeed where he has failed.
Yeah, and they did a good job of it. Like they didn't mourn David like at all. He did not let them. It's just like, all right, well, move on. Guess Carrie's got to wrestle Ric Flair now. I watched that match earlier too.
Oh yeah,
where he Carrie beats Ric Flair, and right before he loses his foot by hitting out the cop car, because they can't have nice things. But it's a really just like awkward to watch because the match is fine, but just the entire time that you just reminded like, all right, they cut to the crowd and someone's holding a "We miss you, David" sign, and then the entire time the commentary guys are talking about, oh, poor David. He was supposed to be here, so poor and then Carrie clearly hadn't slept in a few days. He looked pretty rough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying a lot because that dude was fucked up a lot of his matches. But yeah, damn, could he throw a good discus punch?
The thing, it was one of the scenes that like kind of like got me was the scene where like after he comes out of his coma, they show Mike trying to play the guitar and he's like he can't
do it. Yeah.
And so I was like, oh fuck. And it's like no, and then it's like no wonder he killed himself. Jesus. You watch a lot of the movie is Kevin processing all the terrible things that happened to his family. Like bad things just keep happening to the people that he loves more than anyone. And the scene where he's telling his wife and kids that he's afraid that if he stays around them, that they'll catch it.
Yeah, and they so that their name wasn't actually Von Erich. It was actually...
He didn't want to give his own kids the Von Erich name. He was Kevin was, and like the thing is that when we meet Kevin, like when life is good, like he actually says that like he doesn't believe in the curse. But like as more and more bad things keep happening to him,
he's like, oh no, yeah, we're actually cursed.
He like starts to believe it. Like it's the at a certain point, it's like, how do you process this much loss? And the answer is you start to believe that the curse is real. I would say like I'm surprised the movie's not called the Von Erich's Curse, but that seems in poor taste.
Yeah. Iron Claw was a solid choice though.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I wish they would have done, like a lot of the like like little segments that they would have in between those old world class TV broadcasts, like they would show like the Von Erich boys like at their dad's ranch, like crushing apples and shit. Like they didn't crush a single apple in that movie.
Good movie. Needs more apple crushing. I I liked I really enjoyed Michael Harney as Bill Mercer. He would remember the guy, like their announcer guy.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed him in the movie a good bit. Although I'll be honest, I'm trying to remember what else I know Michael Harney from, because like I saw his face, I was like, oh, it's that guy.
He was in Oranges and the New Black. I don't know if you ever
Oh
watched that.
shit, yeah, no,
He was one of the CEOs in that. Yeah,
I recognize him. Yeah,
he's in a bunch of other stuff though. I see him in other things periodically.
but yeah, no, I enjoyed his character was kind of comical, and like also like just seemed like a sweet old guy. Um, it's a very small part of the movie though, but I did like it. Um, apparently that's what the guy who played Harley Race actually looks like.
That very similar to how Harley looks, except no mustache. He needs the mustache. You're gonna be Harley Race.
I think he had facial hair in there.
Yeah. He did have Harley Race had the Lemmy mustache before Lemmy did.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. He did that for a while apparently.
nice.
I did also like the when they had Kevin wrestle Harley Race. Harley was just like get a dick move to him. Like that's what old timers do. That's what the old guys do. Just like, I don't want to do this. We're gonna throw you out of the ring now, even though we didn't play it. Colin. It's like, I know I didn't tell you this in the back. Well, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
And then I'm gonna wait. What move did he do to him on the concrete?
He suplexed him on the concrete.
Jesus.
Yeah. No pad. Like that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, no, and
and that would knock the wind out of you, and also probably discombobulate you enough that you don't remember what fucking lines you tried to make yourself rehearse in the back.
like, yeah, he was still clearly out of breath by the time it came his turn to be on the mic.
I had a concussion too. Never know. Harley worked really stiff. Like I don't remember what match. I think it was after the like I don't like after. Oh, it was after David's debut where Kevin meets the lady ends up being his wife. And he's like, what? It's like I think they were going for awkward, but it was like, oh, does he have a concussion? That's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, stop being a pushy to Kevin Von Erich. He has a concussion problem. No one knows about those yet.
God, it's totally possible that like head trauma may have been connected to some of the suicides.
Yeah, because they all fucking did like contact sports. Back then, chair shots were all to the head and unprotected. Like you just took it, man. You were considered a little wussy if you didn't take it, and everyone would make fun of you and do ribs that would get you jail time if the cops knew you were doing that to each other. Yeah, those old wrestler pranks are just wow, guys. Go to therapy.
Can you give me an example of one of these types of pranks that the old wrestlers used to do?
A lot of pissing and shitting in each other's bags. I've heard that Chris Benoit once collected a bunch of pee out of urinal into his steroid syringe and then like injected it into some guy's toothpaste.
Oh.
And then when that guy brushed his teeth, Chris like just stood there watching him, smiling. And Chris Benoit had creepy eyes like his whole life. So just like I would immediately know something was up if Chris Benoit stared at me with his creepy eyes.
Ugh. Oh, and of course, Chris Benoit, poster child for too many concussions.
Let's see. Somebody, I think Dynamite Kid, like purposefully like pissed off Jake the Snake before he went out there one time. Apparently he poured beer on it and like ashed his cigarettes into the bag the snake was in, and I'm kind of amazed the snake held still that whole time. He's opening the bag and the snake's not coming out. Yeah, that's another thing. Wrestlers are so crazy back then. Jake Roberts, because you did not break character, had to carry around a bag with a giant fucking python in it everywhere he went.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen some shoot interviews where he just tells stories about how he had to like gate check his snake and he almost missed his show.
Damn. So, all right. So now we've seen 3 of these movies based on true stories.
Yeah.
Um how would you rank them in terms of Napoleon, uh Killers of the Flower Moon, Iron Claw?
As far as just like I personal enjoyment I got from them, I'd go Iron Claw, Flower Moon, Napoleon.
Okay.
Because there's sentimental value in Iron Claw and Flower Moon for me, so that's probably why.
I mean, I know that totally makes sense. I think I would go Killers of the Flower Moon, Iron Claw. Although Iron Claw did make me cry. So like, there's a part of me that feels like I should give it extra points for that. Um, but seriously, guys, Zac Efron is so good in this movie. You need to see. um, but I would probably put Napoleon third. Napoleon's not bad. I really enjoyed Napoleon. In fact, out of the 3 movies, I think Napoleon is funnier the more I think about it.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in Napoleon. So much awkward sex that was so funny and also so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Really made you feel like you weren't supposed to be seeing this.
And the way Napoleon would be a little bitch about things, or the way he's when he's in battle, he's running and you can just hear him breathing. The fact that his mom forced him to have sex with this woman to prove his sperm worked. It was just
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, no, Napoleon's hilarious. The Iron Claw though is sad, but in a really artistic, beautiful way. So I definitely, I have to recommend. I have to highly recommend the Iron Claw. Honestly, I could highly recommend it just for Zac Efron's and Holt McCallany's performances in general. But like the movie itself is well done overall. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of things. Like it clearly paints a richer tapestry if you know the backstory.
Yeah, I knew the whole story going in, so like which is good because it made it a little less like, oh my god, they're all gonna die. Like they're all just dying one after the other. It's like, oh yeah, okay, now you're gonna die, and Carrie's gonna lose his foot.
And like I had a loose understanding of the events, but like for me, I kept going. I kept having moments where I'd be like, "Wait, is this when that one guy's gonna die? Oh no, that guy's gonna. Wait, who dies here? How are they gonna?" Really spectacular. If you like to go see like if you appreciate the art of acting, it is a worthwhile movie to go see. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like the tale itself, the tale is not for everyone. That is probably worth noting.
Yeah, if you have no idea about the Von Erich family at all, you are probably just gonna get hit in the gut with a sledgehammer right in the emotions like repeatedly if you don't know what's gonna happen. Because it's gonna be a lot for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, because it is a lot. Like it is a very like there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of talk. All these movies we talked about featured some very toxic relationships, but this movie is no different. Like it features people who are deeply in love with each other, but it also features people who are incredibly toxic. in the way that they choose to love other
and
people.
there was so much sad stuff, they had to omit a bunch of other things that were also very sad, so it wouldn't be too sad. Because like none of it, like it's just, oh man, like Carrie has a bunch of more fucked up stuff. Like apparently, like after he got caught with the drugs, he asked his wife, like he was married, like, will you wait for me if I get locked up? And she said no. So that kind of fucked him up a little bit.
Wow.
And then like David had a kid that died from like sudden infant death syndrome or something right before he started wrestling too.
Oh man.
So it's just like really dark stuff drove these kids to wrestling, and then they were really good at it, and then they all died from mostly because of their dad putting entirely too much pressure on them so he could live vicariously through them.
Pretty much.
And making them emotionally codependent on each other, yet also secretly resent each other. Like just really complex relationships here.
Oh, that's someone we haven't met. We haven't mentioned Doris von Erich, their mother, who's played by Maura Tierney. My favorite scene of hers is actually the one where she's talking about how their dad used to play music, and like all the kids are like, "What? Yeah. Really?" And she like talks about how like when she met him, he was the most well-rounded man she'd ever met, and like in my brain, I'm just like, "Oh man, that's certainly not who you're married to now." Yeah. Like, yeah. Like I kind of felt bad for her in that moment, and then at the end, yeah, she's like, "Yeah, no, I'm gonna make a painting instead of dinner for you."
That was that was another thing that apparently they like hated each other like pretty much the entire marriage, but they got divorced like after Carrie shot himself. They didn't bother mentioning that, I don't think. But in fairness, that would have taken away from the scene where Kevin is strangling him.
Yeah, no, oh, that scene.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is out of the acting scenes in movies that I've seen in the last few years, that's like up there in my head now. And like not just the strangling part, but like but also like the part where Zac is just like carrying the body and stuff. Oh man. Yeah, no. Hats off to you, Zac Efron. I barely gave you when I first heard about you, it was because you were the star of High School Musical, and so I never gave you any respect. And then slowly I began like, well, he's pretty funny at least. But this, damn son, you you done good. You are an actor, sir, an actor. I mean honestly, like there's been a lot of great acting this year, and honestly I think I would say that Zac Efron, like he should at least get nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah, he did really, really good. He got the accent down, the mannerisms, the awkward way he cut promos. Because they made it seem like he didn't get to talk at all after he bombed that one time. But no, there's plenty of footage of awkward Kevin Von Erich promos. They're always very basic, like, I'm going to get you. Iron Claw Industry. And then David's like, yeah, I'm really good at this. And then Carrie, I don't know. I think it depended on what ratio of drunk and high he was. Oh, that's another thing that they didn't really. Did they imply that Carrie was about to get fired from WWF because they didn't know what the fuck to do with him?
They told. There was
because that was another thing that was making him like go closer to the edge.
I believe the thing he said on the phone call was that when they renewed his contract, it was just to do house shows. So he wasn't going to be on TV anymore.
Yeah. They also didn't mention that another thing that was fucking with him was when he got signed to WWF, he wasn't Carrie Von Erich. He was the Texas Tornado.
Oh.
Like they called him the Texas Tornado.
Interesting.
Like I don't know, it just did not. I guess it's because Fritz resisted Vince, and Vince did not like that. Fuck you, your son can wrestle for me because he's really good, but he doesn't get to leave on Erich though, and no one knows who you are outside of Texas probably.
Oh wait, I just remembered they did say the words Texas tornado.
Yeah, that was his. I thought that was just like his nickname. He's the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, because they all had a weird little Texas nickname. But it's like, no, they just called him Texas Tornado.
Hell of a movie.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he dropped the Intercontinental Belt to Ultimate Warrior too. Like that, that's how Ultimate Warrior got popular too. So that's another thing that Kerry did. They didn't, but
Ultimate Warrior.
yeah,
What? That dude, man.
yeah, he
What
was.
the?
Oh my god,
What was wrong with that man?
I actually have both DVDs that WWE put out about him. Like the initial "Fuck You Ultimate Warrior" DVD, and then the second one, like, "Oh, he was great. We've always loved the Ultimate Warrior. He's the greatest, and we've never put out an entire hit job DVD about what a piece of shit he actually is. No, we've always loved old Jim."
I may or may not have seen parts of the one that was a hit piece
Oh
because
yeah,
I know I've heard people talking about. I know I've seen people talking about how like he was dangerous in the ring.
Yeah, yeah, and he was an asshole. No one liked him, and he thought he was better than everybody. He didn't care about wrestling. He just wanted to make money. And then the second one was like, "Oh, he was such a great spirit, and gosh, we just loved Jim so much. He was the best star in the world. He was so much more than an entrance. No, he was seriously just an entrance. I've watched his matches; they are dog shit. His Ultimate Warrior's offense sucks. It's just the slowest, stupidest strikes you've ever seen, and then a press slam and a splash delivered to a person's back. Like, what the fuck? How's that gonna knock the wind out of him? Doesn't make any sense. But he looked really cool, and his entrance music was sick. So it's all you needed in there.
It's amazing how a small thing can make you go over.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other thoughts?
Not really. It was really good. The stuff that was glossed over was done to make the movie more palatably sad and less spirit crushing, like it would be if it kept everything in.
And also, like under 3 hours.
And they didn't lionize somebody who didn't deserve it, like that entire Fighting with My Family movie that was put out.
I actually haven't seen Fighting with My Family.
We should watch it and review it, and I will tell you what I have learned about British wrestling that makes this movie have a very sad, dark undertones.
Oh God, we also need to watch that one about the gay Mexican wrestler.
Oh yeah, that's
that one's on Amazon.
Whole wrestling related movie series. There we go.
Yep, Ruben and Gato at the movie. What are our topics? Historical dramas and wrestling. Yeah. All right. So, bottom line, I definitely recommend the Iron Claw. I mean, provided you're not looking for a feel good movie. I will say I did think that the ultimately like the ending, the movie does leave us on a positive note of Kevin, because it does feel like the implication is that Kevin would go on to have a beautiful big family and live his best life, is the way it feels at the end of the movie. He just had to stop giving a shit about his dad, pretty much. So the Iron Claw is about how you need to pry the iron claw of abusive family members out of your flesh and escape.
And escape before you are crushed like an apple under the weight of all of the pressures being put upon you by your little dick energy fucking hillbilly dad.
Pretty much. All right. So you would also recommend Gato?
Yes.
Okay. So
Honestly, it's better than The Wrestler. And as far as wrestling related movies go, this is probably the best one so far.
you know what? I really like The Wrestler, and actually, yeah, no, um this is the best wrestling movie that I've seen. Although I think The Wrestler does have more wrestling in it.
Yeah, and it's more, and I mean, The Wrestler's more about social commentary about other aspects of the wrestling industry, not Fritz von Erich was a piece of shit. Here's what he did to his family. He died of 2 cancers, by the way.
What?
He had brain cancer and like lung cancer, I think, at the same time. It wasn't one metastasized and spread. It was just, he had both at the same time.
Damn.
That's what killed him.
Probably from a combination of head trauma and smoking cigars all the time.
Then eating, he's from Texas, so probably eating nothing but red meat and potatoes, probably.
Ouch. Oh man, I thought I had another thing to say about it, but I forgot what it was. But yeah, no, Iron Claw, thumbs up. Not that I'm suddenly doing thumbs up as a measurement, but yeah, top notch. Definitely, probably the best wrestling movie I've seen. Um, if you're looking for a movie that might give you a good cry, it's certainly a movie that can do that. All right. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you've had a good time. Um, please follow on Spotify and like and subscribe on YouTube. Uh, you can find me as Ruben Uncut at both of those places, but also other places where podcasts can be found. Also, you can email the show at rubenuncut@gmail.com. All right. It's time to say goodbye, Gato.
Bye, everybody.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful whatever, whenever you are.